Hey, hello everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're going to open it up with actually Nancy and I are together again. It's been 3.5
Yay.
weeks,
I
Nancy.
know. It's been a while.
We've been on vacation. We've been out politicking. It's been a lot. So Governor DeSantis is going to join us tonight. I'm just kidding. But let's hear what he has to say about this wonderful bill that Florida just passed.
For Disney to come out and put a statement and say that the bill should have never passed and that they are going to actively work to repeal it, I think one was fundamentally dishonest, but two, I think that crossed the line. This state is governed by the interests of the people of the state of Florida. It is not based on the demands of California corporate executives. They do not run this state. They do not control this state. For Disney to come out and put a
That's right. Bravo, bravo.
Very good. Very good.
I'm hoping to see much more of this. So tell us about this bill. It's preposterously called Don't Say Gay. These are idiots, of course, that label this stuff. This couldn't be further from the truth. What's the bill number on this, Nancy? And tell us the particulars.
So the bill number is 1557. It's not that long. It's very easily accessible online. And read it. I would just recommend everyone read it for themselves. My impression is that this is a parents' rights bill, and a common sense bill. It doesn't necessarily focus on the teaching of sexual orientation and gender identity like Disney and the corporate media and the Oscars people want you to believe. It's more about emphasizing that parents have a right to know what's going on with their child in school and that schools need to be transparent with them. It makes sense reading it, and the fact that states have to now legislate this is just it's an upside down world to me in a sense.
Yeah,
But
everybody knew this, guys, until 15 minutes ago, right? And you can tell really who the sheep are, because the sheep are going against something that's against nature, against common sense, against decency, against everything, against their own children.
right.
And sheep are saying, great, CNN tells me to do it, I'm going to do it.
hmm Yeah, the particulars of the bill basically state that the schools need to adopt procedures for notifying a student's parent if there is a change in the student's services or monitoring related to the student's mental, emotional, or physical health or well-being, in line with the school's ability to provide a safe and supportive learning environment for the student. That seems to be complete common sense to me. It says the procedures must reinforce the fundamental right of parents to make decisions regarding the upbringing and control of their children, which is consistent with, Supreme Court decisions in the past. It also does, of note, have a provision where it states that this does not necessarily prohibit a school district from adopting procedures that permit school personnel to withhold such information from a parent if a reasonably prudent person would believe that disclosure would result in abuse, abandonment, or neglect. So there's even a provision in there which says, yeah, if the school knows that there's a crazy parent out there who's been abusing their kid, and if they say something that might lead to further abuse, they shouldn't say it. So all of these people on social media, all of these Oscars actors, whoever, is saying, oh my gosh, there's going to be so much trauma and parents are going to abuse their kids because we can't keep things secret. That's not even accurate. There's a provision in the bill for that, which is common sense. It also states that classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3 or in a manner that is not age appropriate. I mean, honestly, why does anyone want to talk about gender identity or sexual orientation with anyone between the ages, under the ages of 10? I mean, over the ages of 10 too, but under third grade, like, what's so controversial about this?
I mean, as we reported, as we've been discussing, for whatever reason now, North Carolina believes that it's too damn controversial to expose the biological sex on school records to teachers. You have to request certain permission. here in North Carolina. And this comes after a year prior to this, of course. It's okay now to use nicknames without first getting parental consent on official school records. So taken together, we can see why, Nancy, it's conceivable, right? That a boy named Bob could say, I'm Sherry, and conceivably hide this information from the parents, perhaps, or others during the day. So, and again, I mean, this woke BS has taken hold of this state. Of course, we don't have a DeSantis, but we at least expect for the General Assembly to stand up to this. And I suspect, Nancy, once we get past the general election, that would be November 8th. Make sure you guys register to vote if you're not already. But once we get past that, we're going to get a supermajority here of Republicans that are going to kind of, I would hope, follow in the footsteps of DeSantis and say, this is common sense, guys. This is really taking away parental rights. This is coming between the parents and the child. What's going on? And so what we're talking about now, guys, if you're just joining us, is the law down in Florida that was recently passed. It's a good common sense law that says, look, you're not going to be teaching gender ideology and grooming children sexually. You're not going to be sexualizing children from 3rd grade and below. Not only reasonable, but common sense. And parents are going to have the right to know what's going on with their child in the classroom.
Exactly. The outcry over this bill is really does not follow logic to me whatsoever. And it's sad that, like I said before, it's sad that states have to actually legislate this type of thing. The other thing it addresses is, I believe, is surveys, in that it states, before administering a student well-being questionnaire or health screening form to a student in kindergarten through grade 3, the school district must provide the questionnaire health screening form to the parent and obtain the permission of the parent. So for grades K through 3, the surveys are opt-in. The parent has to proactively say.
Mandatory opt-in, which is what we are pushing for here in North Carolina.
Yeah, I would love to see that for K through 12. But it's a start, and they know that these surveys have information on there that could lead to questions from younger children, could be things that parents don't necessarily want them discussing in the classroom. So, sorry. So they were smart enough to put that in there and make it a mandatory opt-in, which we believe and we are fighting for, surveys should be opt-in.
And let us show you why. This is just one of probably 10 stories that we did this year about some of the just off the wall questions, inappropriate questions that have been given in surveys all across the state. This particular one was given by the DPI wrote some of these questions, CDC wrote some of these questions, and the parental consent was inaccurate. I'm going to explain to you how that was, but it's called a passive opt-in, guys. And that means that, okay, we're Jones Middle School and we're going to post somewhere, sometime, don't know how many days in advance, that there's going to be a survey, right? It might go into the backpack of a kid, or it might be on, some school record, but passive opt-in means parents, if you don't sign it, don't bring it in. We just take for granted that Johnny's going to take the test, right? All right, so here are the highlights of the middle school that most schools participated in this year. School as young as 11 asked if they've done heroin or crack, if they've ever had sex, if they discussed sex with their parents, how fast they could get and be ready to fire a loaded gun without parental consent, how many hours are left alone home on school days. High school students, just way out the charts. How many partners they've had, if they've had gay sex. It's crazy. And the parental consent form, let me see if I can pull this up for you guys to see what it does, Nancy. Well, I can't pull it up, so sorry about that. The parental consent form in this instance says to the middle school parents, we're going to ask your children questions about abstinence. No, they don't. They ask, my recollection, 5 or 6 questions about sex. So just off the wall questions. And so in North Carolina, We have been endorsing candidates, as you may know, candidates to sit in the North Carolina House and Senate, school board candidates. But the one thing, Nancy, that you know that we're asking is, will you advocate for and help enact a law, much in keeping with the Florida law, that if you're doing a survey in a class, if you're doing a survey written, however it's done, every single time, not every other time, every single time, there's got to be a mandatory opt-in or it doesn't get done.
Absolutely. I mean, this should be priority number one for Republicans if they take the supermajority. We really need to put a stop on the runaway system of public activism education. It's really insane that you would not want to involve the parents, and that teachers' personal sexual experiences are lessons per se in these schools. And we have lots of video evidence of this and teachers bragging about it. Not all teachers, obviously, but yeah, as I read through this Florida bill, it just makes a lot of sense. It does also have portions that hold the schools accountable if they don't follow those rules. So there is some teeth to the bill in terms of time frames as to how they have to respond when parents have concerns or believe that this bill, their rights have been violated and that type of thing, and can bring declaratory judgments against the school district if they violate, some of these rules.
So let's stop right there. So what this is, guys, Nancy's talking about something called a private right of action. And when you have a private right of action, that means you're able to sue. In North Carolina, you do not have a private right of action, and let me tell you why. Number one, social emotional learning is embedded in all 12 subjects. So it is impossible for a parent to sue over a state curriculum. Okay, so in putting it in all 12 classes, it makes it a state curriculum, really can't sue. No private right of action per se, right? And then you would say, well, okay, what about the surveys? The surveys are part of social emotional learning. So the surveys are de facto part of the curriculum. And then you might say, well, what about FERPA and PERFA? That is parental, that's Privacy Act, Federal Privacy Act on the family, and then it's the Student Privacy Act. There's no private right of action, right? They're just kind of guidelines. And that's why the OCR, the Office of Civil Rights, comes in and issues a complaint and a ruling. Good luck getting Biden's OCR to take a second look, right? They'll probably give $1 billion in extra funding to the particular state that does violate a number of these things. This isn't hyperbole. I mean, this is the world that we're living in, sadly. So this gives what Nancy just said, a private right of action.
Mm-hmm. And that's about it. So, these days it's hard to, trust secondary sources. You always got to go to the primary source. That's what I try to do. Yep. As many clicks as it takes. And this is easily searchable, this bill. So it's 1557 out of Florida. Governor DeSantis signed it. I would highly recommend. It's only a few pages. I mean, yeah, it's got the, jargon in it or whatever, but it's you don't need to be a lawyer to understand what's in it. I highly recommend everyone watching to do a quick Google search and find it and read it for yourself and see and ask yourself objectively, does this make sense? Is this what I want out of my school? And I would think that the answer would be yes. And then you can say, well, is what I'm hearing from mainstream media, if you listen to corporate media, have anything to do with what's written in front of me on this 1557? And I think the answer will be no. They're completely misconstruing it and turning it into something it's not.
Okay, so check this out. Disney pledges to fight Florida's Don't Say Gay bill after employee walkout. So this is another North Carolina. We've been here before. This is HB2. I don't know, however many years ago, and we folded, right? There was actually a couple of lawmakers that went ahead and drafted up a repeal of HB2, didn't stand their ground. That's why we're in this fine mess right now as it is. And I bet you that a lot of our lawmakers, Nancy, probably have PTSD, and that would include Phil Berger and Tim Moore, who were here at the time. But I can tell you what, they better steal their damn spine.
Yeah.
Because it's on. I'm telling you, we are pushing for this type of common sense law. And I have to tell you, nobody's going to be fighting us. Who gives a damn about the corporate boycotts, et cetera? I mean, states have to stand together.
Yeah, I agree. If you don't stand for parents' rights or individual rights, how can you call yourself a Republican or an American? I mean, this is what this country was founded on, and parents should be involved in their or in their kids' education. And schools that fight that, I honestly, I don't understand it. Like, you want cooperation between the student, the teacher, and the parent, and then the administration. And again, reading through this bill, I just see every line is common sense to me. K through 3, why would you target that population unless your plan was to twist their minds in an indoctrinative sense? You know, there's no reason that anyone in elementary school needs to learn about gender identity. It's incomprehensible at that young age. They don't understand biology. It's a theory that came out of academia, and this bill just makes sense. It's sad. It's sad that states have to do this, but we've got to do it, and we've got to call on our lawmakers to do it and to not back down.
We absolutely do, because look, I mean, in this state, the General Assembly, really, I mean, it's beautiful. Our state is one of the rare ones where the General Assembly is in control. So it's, of most things, it's a truly representative democracy in that sense. But I think that, over the past 20 years, at least, we've talked about this a lot, where the General Assembly has given away their power to the administrative state. That would be the state Board of Ed, and that would be the DPI. So the way it works, guys, is that the General Assembly, at least for the last 2 years, has been just pumping copious amounts of dollars into the DPI, and they're doing whatever the hell they want to with it. As we understand, it's been about 18 months since they've actually had an oversight meeting. That means, okay, guys, we gave you the money for this. How has it been appropriated? What are the results? So that's starting to happen, and it needs to happen. We're seeing that. I mean, the kids are worse than failing, Nancy. I mean,
Yeah, it's so sad, because not only are they're robbing these kids of their innocence. The brains at that age are able to take in so much information so quickly and learn so fast, and you're wasting time on this ideological crap that it makes no sense in a child's world, and it really is taking advantage of the most vulnerable. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this 1557 should be engraved in the side of the NCDPI building wall. They should all have to read it every day before they go into work. I mean, we have a state board of education appointed non-elected activist members who are concerned about eradicating whiteness in all aspects of education. Meanwhile, we've got little kids learning this stuff, this genderbread person, and being pushed down their young minds.
Kindergarten, Moore County, guys. Look at here on the right. What in the hell are children doing learning this? Gender expression. So this is for you guys who say, look, maybe it happens in Florida, maybe California, right? New York. No, this is happening in North Carolina. This is Moore County. It's it's a red county, for gosh sakes. So it's gender identity, Nancy, is womanness and manness, identity, expression, sex, sexual orientation. What in the hell is going on here?
Yeah, and this was created by an activist comic. It's not based in
it's hilarious. Yeah,
medicine at all.
This is social emotional learning. We'll go over it again. This kind of stuff should not be discussed in an open forum in the classroom. Questions I have about my face, hair, chest, and body. I don't think they're talking about the hair on your head. It's just a hunch, right? Questions about growing up are, when is it okay to kiss? This is nuts. And ratting out the family. Nancy, this is in your neck of the woods, Orange County. Middle school.
I mean, it's amazing how they even try to normalize those questions. Like, if you go back to the last one, it's like questions I have about my face and chest. And the next question is, my favorite activities are.
Right.
Like, it's not even, they're not even close to the same thing. And they're putting them right next to each other. Like asking about your chest, hair, and body is the same as someone asking about what your favorite activities are. I mean, the grooming is so obvious.
Yeah.
They're trying to normalize this type of intrusive, uh, too much information kind of thing, and not give a child any sense of privacy or individuality.
Yeah, so we need this law. We need this law badly. So this is a survey. So part of what we're asking here at Education First Alliance is we're asking candidates to say this type of survey, this is a survey, it is a classroom survey. Before you give it, you must have a mandatory opt-in or the superintendent will be dinged, right? They'll be taken away and dock their salary to restructure out. And that will be, of course, by attendant at the state who will come in 2024. But let me get ahead of that. Okay, so these will have to have a mandatory opt-in. By the way, this is part of social emotional learning. So do you see now, guys, how the surveys, they're getting away with it in North Carolina by saying, this is part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
You cannot opt out. Oh, I forgot about this one. Look up here, guys. Check this out. Here are other questions. Do I have to diet? Is it okay to be excited about growing up? What if I don't like my legs, breasts, and lips?
Yeah, this is under self-awareness. If you look at the very top, it says self-awareness, right? So in the CASEL SEL, which is the standard, the Collaborative Association for SEL, which is the standard that the NCDPI uses, they have 5 aspects of social emotional learning, which includes things like self-management and whatever. And I believe self-awareness is one of them.
It absolutely is.
So they're asking these under the CASEL model of self-awareness.
Right. So this is just in North Carolina. This is Richmond County. Again, another red county. Do your friends use marijuana, pot, etc.? Have you sold it? I mean, hopefully not, but I'm going to tell you something. You are tricking with these surveys, which our policy that we're lobbying for right now would not permit. You're asking kids to implicate themselves in a felony without a lawyer present. And if you can see, never. So on this 5-point Likert scale, there's only one chance to get it right. Otherwise, you might be brought in, right, and judged. This is trickery. It's not fair. And for goodness sakes, we've heard of teachers, during the ages of Common Core, rigging the system to mess around with a test. What's to say teachers won't mess around with a survey of a kid they don't like? Believe me.
Or use the information to target a vulnerable kid,
Oh, yeah. This is Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools, 2018, 2019. It was going on there. Notice, as you said, Nancy, the way that they're asking these questions, very manipulative. They're asking in 3 different types of questioning. What is your gender? And by the way, they're asking this to all, Nancy. That's K through 12. They're asking these questions.
Yeah. No, and you could even argue, the word gender originally referred to grammar, right? It's like, not to get all esoteric and academic here, but
biological.
A century ago, it was regarding grammar. And for example, like French or Spanish, where you have gendered nouns, like, cat is male and table is female, or however they assigned it. And then it was co-opted by activists in the 60s who started doing the sex research and everything into gender identity in biology. So, you could even study the origins of these words and see how they've twisted meanings over time for their own activist causes. It's amazing.
So Nancy, this is another survey that was given in a homeroom class, Charlotte Mecklenburg School System, 7th grade. We're making it so, and we're going to need your help, everybody. We're going to need your help in petitioning your legislator, or look, just flat out saying, dude, I'm not going to vote for you unless you make it a top shelf priority to have mandatory opt-ins. Mandatory opt-in for surveys is what we're asking for. This is another one, Johnston County Middle School. And it goes on and on and on and on. So the surveys are something that at this point you just can't sit out of.
It's not fair for the teachers either. I would think if you're a teacher, if I were a teacher, I'd be very uncomfortable giving that survey to everyone in the class unless I knew the parents absolutely wanted it. And even then I'd still be kind of uncomfortable, and I would want to do my job as a teacher and teach whatever subject I was a specialist in. I don't understand this desire to survey everyone under the sun. And I mean, these aren't happening just once a year. In Orange County, we've traced at least, 7 or 8 surveys a year. I mean, a week and a half of school days spent on these kind of surveys. I don't understand the obsession with this.
Well, it's a requirement that comes down from a law, the School Mental Health Bill of 2020. Okay. So that's where it originally came from. Okay. So that came in through that. And then the policy that has been made by the state school board is that the surveys have to be given a lot. In fact, they've got to be given for mental health. They've got to be given in social emotional learning. It's just, got to get rid of that, right? And so how do we do it? Well, election season is upon us. So again, voting for the right candidate definitely helps. We're in primary season. And so really research these candidates, guys. You've got to ask them. Nancy, what are some of the questions that you should be asking someone when they're asking for your vote?
Well, certainly, where's education in your list of priorities, would be my first question. And then making sure that they understand, I would ask them, like, where do you think education policy matters the most? Like at the local level, a state level, or a federal level? Because these legislators really need to understand that the power is with the General Assembly to stop the stuff incoming from the federal level and to oversee the NCDPI and make sure the right policies trickle down to the local level. So I'm not sure how to phrase it a little better, but the candidates got to understand, if they're running for the state legislature, how much power they have, and that they need to take a proactive role in that office with education and overseeing the NCDPI. Does that make sense to you, Sloan?
It makes total sense to me. And what we're asking is this, guys. So I want to be really transparent about the endorsements we're giving out. Number one, if you're running for General Assembly, that you are going to not only use your platform to speak out about doing away with Castle SEL, you're going to educate your fellow lawmakers, and you're going to push for it. That's number one. Right. 2, to your point, is cutting down the DPI by 50%. And that's an easy one, right? I mean, the average salary is $82,000, and they have over 600 employees. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out how much.
Yeah, and they contract everything out anyway.
Right. I mean, it begs the question: if you're not doing HIT, why are you?
Yeah.
And look this is what we're dealing with here. 1 in 6 North Carolina 9th graders didn't make it to 10th. I mean, what? How come we have time for these surveys, Nance? How come we have time for social emotional learning? The material fact is we don't. And so you're right. The General Assembly has got to claw back power and say, look, this is a dumpster fire. It needs to stop.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would definitely put it on the candidate for the General Assembly. What are you going to do specifically about the NCDPI? What do you understand as your role in overseeing the NCDPI? How are you going to, as you said, educate your fellow legislators? Are you going to be involved proactively in regaining rights for parents and fulfilling our obligation to parents in terms of holding the NCDPI accountable? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think parents out there's an incredible lack of frustration over lack of accountability. I have to tell you, when I speak to politicos, right, who are either staffers in Raleigh or they're the candidates themselves, elected officials, and some people in think tanks or what have you, they're so isolated from the anger that's out here on the ground.
Absolutely.
It's insane. And they're playing a game from 2 years ago. And they'll always say, Sloan, and we get it, Nancy, because you get it too. Why are you so exercised about this stuff? Just in time, right? Because this stuff is out of control. It is angry. It's anger provoking. And I think, do you ever get I don't know. I'm going to talk about my husband for a second. My husband is cool and calm.
Yeah.
Nothing bothers him.
Like mine.
Okay. So I find that I have to really pump up the volume to get attention. Okay. So some of that at the school board and stuff, you'll see that earlier in the year, right? Calm, cool, colette, upward. Then, by this time, voices are raised, poignant statements are made, and it needs to happen, right? So some of this raising the volume, if you will, legitimately on this upset, it's understandable.
Oh, well, yeah, and plus it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and I'm convinced, as the more and more I study the state level policies, and it's a select group of people, of a select group of insiders that know each other and work together and are in the same circles that are creating a majority of these activist type approaches to education, and there's no accountability for them. So yeah, we have to be loud and we have to use some of the left tactics. The leftists yell and scream and get emotional and all of this stuff, and then kind of push their way through things. And so we need.
They're fakers. This
Yeah.
this faux moral outrage. This
Right. This is
legitimate,
genuine. Yeah, genuine outrage.
right?
And we should use that, in a controlled manner to represent, that we want our rights back as parents and we want common sense back in education, and that this is the wrong direction. And I think a lot of the people in Raleigh, are starting to hear it more, which is good, and paying a little bit more attention, but they still don't quite understand exactly what's going on. They're still kind of in their own little political bubble. And so we gotta keep after them and keep educating them, and find the good candidates and tell those candidates, you need to educate your colleagues. Once you get in, you need to be proactive and start the ball rolling and start asking questions of the NCDPI and really watching what they're doing.
Yeah, we've got to have oversight. I mean, we've got to have a lot of oversight because we do not have a partner at DPI. We have somebody that's going to rubber stamp the most radical elements, the very most radical elements of the State Board of Education. So just letting you know, guys, just in summary, the Florida bill is passed. There's going to be a boycott of Florida by a lot, and good luck with that, by the way. But we need to stand strong. I mean, I can tell you, I know a lot of people. I'm not like a big boycott person, but Disney can kiss my ass.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've already started that process. So, sounding off like, who do they think they are telling us how to parent our children? And they are a children's park. By the way, I don't recall them saying anything about, let's see, Epstein and Harvey Weinstein. I don't recall them weighing in.
Were they outraged at censoring Dr. Seuss?
I don't recall that either.
That's what I think that's always funny with these book bans, where they're all like, oh my goodness, you're banning this book that has the F word in it 24 times in one paragraph. How can you? But then, Dr. Seuss has a parade with a potentially politically incorrect character, and no one cares.
Yeah,
like they're like, ban it.
It is over time that we stand up to these woke companies. This is absolutely positively insane. I'm glad that DeSantis is doing it. We need to have their back, because guess what? North Carolina is going to be next. I really see it coming. And look, I mean, they can't divert away from a lot of different states. And oh, by the way, guys, this is a new Republican Party. We don't just care about, jobs. Jobs are great. The right kind of jobs, right? So if you're going to move a bunch of woke companies into North Carolina, like Google and Apple and Amazon, I mean, right? We cannot allow them to dictate our education policy. So in this state, we have a lot of stuff that we have to work our way out of, because when we do this, and we will, they're going to try to put the squeeze on us. So that's why, Nancy, we've got to keep building our coalition, because we have got to be able to fight back.
Yeah. I mean, print out this bill, 1557, send it to your reps, demand this type of thing for our children, and our families deserve this. There should be no problem with being transparent with parents as to what you're teaching in the classroom.
Yeah.
You should be proud of what you're teaching in the classroom. And this just makes complete common sense. And it would be nice if a strong leader in North Carolina would stand up and say, we need this here.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I know that we have them. I know that we have them. I'm not sure about leadership in the House and Senate, but I know that we have very strong lawmakers who want to make this happen. But they need to know, guys, that you support them. So again, you may think that your legislator knows you and knows how you feel or should know, but I think that we also, Nancy, need to do our part in, take 10 minutes, write an email to, I don't know, your house rep or whatever. Let them know that this is what you want to see here.
Yeah. And show your friends if it comes up in conversation. Ask your friends, have you actually read the bill? Like, what do you think about it? Because a lot of people don't realize that they're being gaslit, or that, talking heads are actually lying to them. So there's kind of a populist level of educating each other that we need to do. And so if the thing comes up, just say, hey, Google the bill, read it. Like, it makes sense. Like, what specifically are you against?
Right. And get the progressives on the record. I wonder if this is going to backfire, Nancy. I really think it will. We have to take control of the message. Obviously, we've let these bozos take control of the message of this bill, but letting people say, hey, and putting the picture up of this pornography that they're pushing, or even the genderqueer person. Hey, Disney wants this taught in your grade class, which is true.
That's it. That's the real story. I mean, I have pictures that happened to my kids. You just blow up the pictures. I did that for my school, and it was just funny to watch their faces just turn pale white and ashen and still lie about how it was necessary.
And they're still supported by Dan.
Yeah, but at least you have the picture there, and you get them on record as saying, this is really what you want for my first grader or second grader. This is really what's needed at this point in time in history. And you think this is good for parents not to know about, So,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's the real story here.
Yeah. That's the real story. Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. The real story is what they want for your child to learn. And they're like, and I dare you to say something about it. They're bullying. That's what they're trying to do. And it's not going to work. It can't work, guys. We've got to hold strong. It can't work. So keep up with this story. Keep up with what we're, talking about here. Next week, we've got a lot of exciting things to tell you about what the things are that ESA is putting down the line and that we're going to be pushing for this year. And it's going to be a lot of good stuff for families.
Yeah. Families first.
Yeah. Families first, guys. So thank you very much for tuning in. And we'll see you next week.
Yep.